This morning, a startling question. Is Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton a flight risk?
I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this year that, Ken Paxton's on an island somewhere cashing out his campaign account and, trying to skirt law enforcement. I think the best case
You think
scenario,
he would take off? I mean, literally, you think he'd take off?
He's facing life in prison.
State Rep Jared Patterson talking publicly about issues that many conservatives discuss privately. We'll have a preview of our new Y'all-itics podcast. Republican Jill Dutton is the newest member of the Texas legislature, narrowly defeating a candidate supported by the far right.
Your Republican opponent accused you of stealing this seat. Brent Money's, taking the page from Donald Trump on that. Have you spoken to Brent Money since the election?
No, I have not. And that is absolutely ridiculous. I won the two counties that have the most Republicans in those counties that carried Trump.
The southern border in the spotlight this week. Congress to vote on whether to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Congressman Tony Gonzalez represents 2/3 of the Texas-Mexico border and is on the program with us. And Super Tuesday now just 1 month away. Lots of important dates to mark on your election calendar this month.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Jason Whiteley. Let's start with the headlines this morning. Super Tuesday now just a month away right here in Texas. If you want to vote in either the Democratic or Republican primary, tomorrow is the deadline to register to vote. Early voting begins February the 20th. If you vote by mail, February 23rd is the last day to request one of those ballots. And then remember, Election Day, March 5th in Texas. State troopers arrested a man for threatening House Speaker Dade Phelan. This might come as no surprise considering rhetoric from fellow Republicans. Troopers charged a man named Daniel Troy LeBlanc with terroristic threat. LeBlanc is accused of threatening to kill Speaker Phelan in a Facebook post. For months, the far right has attacked Phelan for impeaching Attorney General Ken Paxton, among other things. And Attorney General Ken Paxton has had kind of a tough week legally over the last few days. Paxton desperately trying to avoid taking the witness stand in the case filed by his whistleblowers. Paxton wanted to settle it at whatever amount the court determined, but a Travis County judge is not letting Paxton off very easily. The judge denied Paxton's attempt to decide the case without a jury. We have to start this morning, though, with the Texas-Mexico border. Congress likely to vote this week on whether to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary. No one represents more of the borderland than Congressman Tony Gonzalez, a Republican from San Antonio, who is starting us off. Congressman, welcome back to the program here. The House Homeland Security Committee, on which you sit, has voted to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. This now goes to the full House. Do you expect every single Republican to support this? Because that's what's going to be needed, as you know, to get an impeachment.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's pretty close margins. I don't know if every Republican will vote for it, but I do know it is long past time that we hold the administration accountable.
Do you think the impeachment will actually happen? There'll be enough votes at the end of the day?
I do. I mean, if you want to defend Secretary Mayorkas and you want to run on that, good luck. That's not the hill to die on.
As part of this bipartisan deal, President Biden has said that he's offering a mechanism to let the president shut down the border if it gets overwhelmed, over 5,000 people per day. Donald Trump threatened to do the same thing, but we're hearing some Republicans say, listen, we don't even want that right now.
I think it's a wrong approach for the president to just focus on the illegal crossings. He's missing the point here. The illegal crossings should be zero. And he should be focusing on what about legal crossings? What about people that are trying to legally come over for work visas, trying to legally, flee religious and political persecution? There's no talk of that, Jason. It's all about what is the number of people that is acceptable to come over legally. Is it 5? Is it 10? Is it 20? That's the wrong approach. So the answer should be zero. And the answer should be, what can you do to encourage people to come through the legal routes?
We've heard you and other Republicans say that President Biden needs to enforce the laws on the books right now. What laws on the books right now would slow this massive number of people coming across the border? What specific laws are there?
Deportation for those that do not qualify for asylum. I'm talking about you got your day in court, you did not qualify. What's the next step? The next step is sending you back to your country of origin. That is the secret sauce. That is what the president has to do. And you know what, Jason? They've done that previously. The Haitians under the bridge in Del Rio, thousands of Haitians, and then all of a sudden that went away. Well, the reason that went away is because they started deporting Haitians back to Haiti that did not qualify for asylum. That's what the president has to do, not deport by the dozens, deport by the thousands, those that have already had their cases adjudicated.
So he needs to do more of that then.
That's it. That's it. That's all he has to do. And you know what? I'm all in to give him more money for ICE deportation flights that can expedite that removal process.
Texas is making a lot of news right now for ignoring that Supreme Court order to let Border Patrol cut the razor wire along Shelby Park there in Eagle Pass. How do you expect this to end?
It hurts me because the law enforcement officers on the ground, their brothers and sisters, their cousins, we should not be pitting the state versus the federal government. They should be working together to secure this border. But I also think it's a shiny object. If you ever go to Eagle Pass, Shelby Park's about a mile long. You know, the other 100 miles to the left and 100 miles to the right, are much different. So I want to de-escalate the situation. Good leaders de-escalate the situation and find solutions. No more of this whose fault it is. You know whose fault it is?
Are you trying to de-escalate that now?
I am. Yeah. Part of it. Yeah, exactly. Part of it is this. Part of it is how do we get a border security package that actually secures the package over? It's whose fault is this? It's all of our fault.
Congressman, we always appreciate the time. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jason.
All right, let's bring in the roundtable to talk more about this. Bud Kennedy is here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I am Mitra, of course, from the Texas Tribune in Austin, and Bernadine Steptoe, political producer at WFAA in Dallas. The most startling thing to me over the last week, Bud, Joe Biden moving to the right on the border, really giving him a position to argue and campaign on this fall.
Well, he wants to show that something's going to get done, but do the Republicans want to get anything done is the question. The Republicans may not want to do anything until November so they can campaign on the issue. The congressman has a good point. There's space up and down that border, but, you talk about Morales, the state representative, was on TV this week saying, a mile up from the park, a mile down from the park, people are crossing freely, that it's all just photo op in the park.
He's not wrong about that. It is a shiny object, Ian.
No, he's not. And, of course, a big thing in all of this debate is, of course, Donald Trump, and with him looking more and more likely to be the GOP nominee and him speaking out so harshly against the proposal, it's really putting a lot of pressure politically in the Senate and in the House, which is also adding to this.
And Bernadine, the Republicans have a narrow majority in the House. Do you expect an impeachment of the Homeland Security Secretary to happen?
Well, if we're looking at counting the votes now, no. Because you already have some of the Republican congresspeople backing out and saying that this is not an impeachable offense. So, they also are talking publicly that they don't want a solution because they want to enable former President Donald Trump's campaign. Yeah. So we're not going to see too much happen.
We shall see how that actually pans out in the coming months. Thanks, guys. Back to you in just a moment. Here's what's coming up next. When we come back here this morning, a Republican state representative unplugged about the Texas Attorney General.
I mean, these securities fraud charges it's real deal. I mean,
but
it's
you think the Attorney
stuff.
General is a flight risk?
I absolutely do.
We'll preview our newest podcast. Plus, Republican Jill Dutton narrowly defeating a candidate supported by the far right. But this campaign far from over. Dutton is in studio with us when Inside Texas Politics returns. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. The far right in this state lost another election in Texas. Republican Jill Dutton defeated Britt Money for a seat in the House of Representatives in East Texas. She is finishing out a term for a member who resigned, and Dutton now faces a rematch on Super Tuesday with the same man she just defeated. Representative-elect, congratulations on the win. What was it, 100 votes, I think, separated you to roughly 100 or so votes. What does this win say about the state of Republican politics in Texas?
I think what it states is that the voters have spoken. This is truly just a win for the constituents of House District 2. Really nothing more than that. We have gone 8 months without a representative, and it's been a long time, and many of them have been really upset about not having representation in the House and in the district. And so truly this is a win for them.
You're going to have to do this all over again in a month on Super Tuesday, and the turnout on Super Tuesday is going to be a lot higher than it was for the special election on Tuesday. How challenging do you expect that to be?
We're looking at this just like we did the February election on Tuesday. We are going to give it everything we have, and then we're going to give it some more. We're going to work really, really hard to get our supporters to the polls.
Is the higher turnout on Super Tuesday going to help or hurt you, though?
I believe it will help me.
How so?
I think more people are going to be coming to the polls that know me now. They're getting used to my name. I've got name recognition, name ID, and frankly, they're not concerned about any proxy war. They're not concerned about what's going on within the party. They just want good representation that's going to listen to them and help them.
Your Republican opponent accused you of stealing this seat. Brent Money's taking the page from Donald Trump on that. Have you spoken to Brent Money since the election?
No, I have not. And that is absolutely ridiculous. I won the 2 counties that have the most Republicans in those counties that carried Trump. He won the county that is mostly Democrats. Even Trump received 10% of a Democrat vote, and I just reject that. I have no control over who comes out in a special election, especially in a runoff, and we have a tremendous amount of conservative support, and we just made sure that we got out there and got them to the polls.
School vouchers, obviously one of the biggest issues in this race. Last time we had you on the program, we talked about that. One of the clearest dividing lines, obviously, between you and your opponent. To make sure that I'm clear, and for voters in District 3, do you support giving parents tax money to go to public schools if there is accountability on how that money is spent?
Yes, I do.
Accountability is the main word, right?
Accountability, but I support Governor Abbott and his plan, and it includes accountability. I think the main clear differences, though, between me and my opponent is that I have extensive school board experience. I have experience with public education funding. I have experience listening to parents, to teachers, to students. And I'm a great listener, and I will listen to everyone and respect everyone's opinion, no matter whether they're with me or we disagree. But I also have an extensive record and experience with teacher retirement system. We have a very clear-cut difference between those two. TRS is very solvent. It's the strongest retirement system in the state of Texas, and he has said that he is for changing that to a defined contribution plan, and I am very strong and I'm consistent that we need to keep that a defined benefit plan.
You mentioned that you support Governor Abbott. Which way would you have voted on the bill last year that had so many Republicans in this party divided?
It was a really good, all of those bills, I think I could have supported any of them. They had accountability in them, but they also had a lot of things that public education needed, like increasing the student allotment.
Would you have voted for it?
Yes, I would have voted for it.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much.
A Republican state lawmaker is going public now with what so many of his colleagues have been saying in private. State Rep Patterson is a Republican from North Texas and speaking freely on our podcast because he does not have a primary opponent. Here's a clip of what he said about Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton, who has been trying desperately to avoid testifying in that lawsuit brought by whistleblowers from his own office.
What he's saying now is, look, those guys are right. I'm not even going to fight it. Whatever they say goes, and judge, whatever settlement that you want to come up with that, oh, by the way, the taxpayers have to fund, whatever number that is, not 3.3 million, it could be 20 million. Whatever number you come up with, I'm good with. I'm just going to let you have it. That is remarkable. The fact.
What was your reaction when you saw that Paxton wasn't fighting this?
I just disgusted, astounded, and every single day, it's gotten so repetitive now that almost every single day, the entire focus of the Office of the Attorney General is about how to protect Ken Paxton from answering any question whatsoever under oath. And look, this is not about him being a Republican or me agreeing or disagreeing with the things that he's done with the Biden administration or others. You know, myself, other members of the Texas House that have campaigned for Ken Paxton, that have supported Ken Paxton, that have, done all of these things, I don't understand how a Republican can look at someone in the Democratic Party and point our finger at them and saying that person is corrupt if we can't do the same within our own party.
Do you expect the House of Representatives, if there's a judgment in this case, not a settlement, but a judgment in this case, do you expect the House of Representatives is going to pay that on behalf of Ken Paxton?
Well, I can't.
To those whistleblowers.
I can't speak on behalf of all of my colleagues, but I'll tell you what I would support. I would support, those guys were wronged. Ken Paxton broke the Whistleblower Act. What he did was wrong, and those guys were wrong. A lot of them, their reputations have been sullied because of this and all kinds of things. So I would support some type of settlement agreement only after Ken Paxton answers questions under oath about everything that happened. Ken Paxton will, I believe, eventually be deposed. He will have to answer questions under oath on the whistleblower suit. He hasn't had to yet. He hasn't had to yet, but look, time is not on his side. He's got the securities fraud thing coming up in April. The FBI is investigating him on the bribery charges. I know for a fact that they are interviewing multiple people all around Austin that are involved with, not involved with that, but know about things.
People in the legislature?
I know of people in Austin that are being interviewed by the FBI. And so it's like,
the grand jury or the FBI? The grand jury in San Antonio?
The FBI specifically. Okay. I mean, look, the noose is getting tighter. It's a matter of time. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this year that, Ken Paxton's on an island somewhere cashing out his campaign account and, trying to skirt law enforcement. I think the best case
scenario. You think
he
would take off? I mean, literally, you think he'd take off?
He's facing life in prison. These securities fraud charges it's real deal.
But
it's
you think the Attorney
stuff.
General is a flight risk?
I absolutely do. Look, he's gone all over the world. He went to China whenever everyone said, do not go on this trip to China. He's been all over Europe. He's never disclosed how those European trips were paid for. He's now come to light that he's got multiple homes and investment properties all over the United States that he somehow bought with a $150,000 a year salary.
Representative Jared Patterson unplugged in this episode, slamming Paxton, the far right in Texas, and all those members of Congress who trot down to Texas for photo ops along the border. This episode of Yellowtick's really a candid look inside the Texas GOP today, and it is available to download wherever you get your podcasts. Lots to talk about on the Roundtable when we come back. All right, let's bring the Roundtable back in and talk about the most recent AFL-CIO debate with the Democratic primary candidates for U.S. Senate. Roland Gutierrez, number 2 in the race, he got some publicity off this, but Colin Allred, a poll shows, still far and away ahead, bud.
Yeah, the race isn't close, but it's closer. Yeah. And I think that Gutierrez made some points with progressives in the party, established himself as the progressive candidate. A lot of the vote is in South Texas, so that's an advantage for him. But still, Allred is all this money that he's spending, and he's building more name ID and spending more money than any Democrat in the primary that I remember. He's setting himself up for a general election campaign where it's a Baylor football player against a debater from the Ivy League.
And he does have a lot more money. At the end of the day, though, this was the only debate there is going to be with these top 3 candidates here. Did it change anything?
For Colin Allred, it was just about kind of maintaining what's been going on, too. He's got a bit more name recognition, as long as he didn't have a big stumble, which nothing seriously came out of that. Again, going back to what Bud said about the fundraising machine that Colin Allred had, the latest reports show $10 million cash on hand. That's more than Ted Cruz has, right? At the end of the fourth quarter of last year. Obviously, that'll change as things pick up. But Colin Allred, if you're looking at the money, he's far and ahead and looking ahead to the general in that way.
And looking ahead to the general, Bernadine, is the Cruz campaign concerned at all about Colin Allred right now?
Well, I think the Cruz campaign should be concerned anyway, because Cruz does have a lot of negatives in this state and in any kind of election, but Colin is doing okay. And raising the money and campaigning the way he is, I think Cruz should be concerned.
Let's talk about another race, a statewide race that we talked about in the last segment here, and that's Jill Dutton versus Brent Money. She beat Brent Money, represented and supported by the far right, Bud. What was your takeaway from that? It was still a close race.
He was supported by the far right. He was supported by Abbott, Paxton. He was supported by so many people, but she had Republican women on her side. This was a big win for Republican women who have taken some defeats in other races where the far right came after them. There have been far right candidates who said women shouldn't even be in the House. This was a big win for women. There was one other little wild card in this race. There was some whisper campaign based on some past things. He said that he was a never Trumper. And so she was able to get Trump voters on her side. And so she got both moderates and Trumpers, peeled those off of money.
Everyone knew it was going to be close here, but any surprises at all from your standpoint?
A lot of attention has been placed too. This was a special election. Everybody in the district could vote for it. This wasn't a Republican primary, although sometimes it felt that way. And then there was a lot of talk, particularly, Brent Money talked about how 1,000 Democrat voters, were turned over to Jill Dutton. I mean, we have to remember, too, that the third place finisher in the original race here was a Republican, too. So Heath Hyde's votes were also split up among these candidates, too. And so she had gains, Jill Dutton did, in all 3 counties. So that is something to kind of watch for, too, heading into the primary.
And they, of course, face each other again March 5th when they're running for their own, or she's running for her own full 2-year term, Bernadine. Does she keep her seat?
I think she does. Because as Bud said, the women are going to come out to keep her in that seat. And also, I think the Money made a mistake when he said that she cheated to get it. Because he's telling those women that you all cheated to get your candidate in. And I think that she's definitely going to keep her seat.
Bud, what do you think?
Well, he's saying that the election, he didn't say rigged, something like that. But he doesn't like it that Democrats got to vote. But this was an open election. Anybody could vote. So those independents might be upset enough to come out and vote against him in the primary.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks so
She
much.
needs
We appreciate
to hope
it.
so.
Thank you for watching as well. We're back next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics. Take care.